And I guess you're just on hiatus from QT for the next. Is there no locations up in?
There is, but it's pretty shady. I'm not gonna mess with that.
Okay. Really, more shady than?
Yeah, it's on the east side of campus, which is more of a crime-ridden area.
Gotcha. Did you ever go to the one on Denver and Tulsa? Like that one, there's always shit going on in there. Yeah,
when we drove past it.
Yeah, if you ever like want a good spectacle, you literally just have to go there. Like the first day that I was in Tulsa, I went to get some gas or something, and there was a guy that was like out in front of QT. He wasn't doing anything to anybody, but he was just like yelling some biblical speech. Just like
really?
Yeah, he was just like he was probably like mid-30s. He wasn't even that old, but I don't know if he was just like high out of his mind or something or what. But he was just like walking up and down in front of the QT, like shouting, like just I couldn't even tell what was going on. But
That's
always
funny.
a good spectacle down there at the Denver QT.
I think when we were there, didn't some guy approach you for money? Like,
Yeah, something
that
happened. I was trying to remember
always
that.
happens.
Yeah.
That's like I wouldn't think that Drake would even have even close to an area like, but
You'd be surprised.
especially at QT.
Des Moines, yeah.
Usually the
Every
ones
city.
the QTs like that they put like cops they put them like inside they just hang out there. That Denver one always has like a different cop hanging out inside. But,
So reading any good books recently?
the last thing I'm like halfway through the raw material, the first book.
Okay.
It hasn't really evolved at all yet. It's still kind of like laying out the basics. They haven't really asked any further questions outside of that yet, of just like other than identifying like who exactly they're talking to still and what the like laws of these different densities and that kind of thing. And they haven't really gotten past that. So I mean, it's still interesting. But I watched the first video of that small channel that Landon talked about called
Okay.
what's it called? I've already forgotten it. Mathematics something. It's really helpful. But the guy integrating the CTMU, which is the cognitive theoretical model of the universe, with with the information presented in the raw material, which I just watched the first one, which is like they're each about 25 minutes, and they're really intensive. The guy is like, it seems like they're scripted, and they're very laid out videos. There's no time wasted. He is extremely, as I think Landon was trying to give us a good reference in like how articulate this guy is, and yeah, he seems to know a lot. He's saying he's like 28 and he's married and he's a teacher. So sounds like most of his life outside of teaching is like I don't even know what he's doing, just like reading college textbooks or Goodwill Hunting type of dude mentality. But really interesting. I mean, it was just like the introductory, like what the series is going to be about and how he's going to attempt to, which he does it in a surprisingly very articulate, but kind of layman. I mean, like not layman, but it's understandable. It's not like he's spouting crazy terms every 3 seconds. So might be interesting. We'll see.
So how long was that first episode?
25 minutes.
Okay.
It was
That's
just
not
no.
Are they all roughly the same?
Yeah, they look all about 20, 25 minutes long.
Okay.
And he just goes session by session. So there's 106 sessions of like their contact, like their channeling sessions where they're getting this information. And then so he's going to go through each one and break down the responses and the questions, that kind of thing. And somehow apply it to whatever the CTMU, I don't know how he's going to do that exactly, but he's pretty much just trying to integrate that CTMU, so like the mathematical concepts of the universe's workings on a conscious level, and then this kind of spiritual text. So, or not even spiritual, whatever you want to call the raw material. So it's quite an ambitious task, but I don't know where it's going to go. But he seems to be smart enough to do it, so we'll see.
So are you reading the raw material strictly out of like interest?
Yeah,
or, like
no, pretty
challenge any
much. Just
perspective,
really
or-
interest and
Okay.
game perspective. Even if it's I can see about a couple ways that you could fake it, or at least one way that you could fake it. I mean, it's kind of difficult because they do present decent amount of evidence and like pictures of how it's all set up, but it's not inconceivable that it could be faked. But there's also a lot of good reasons for it not to be. So I don't know. We'll see. But yeah, just purely out of interest. Just
So as of now,
gleaning.
you wouldn't say there's like any like truth to what they're claiming.
Well,
or-
they haven't really presented anything outside of the norm, really. Outside of like it's really just they're presenting like a universal spiritual perspective to religion. So trying to explain, not to even try to explain, just telling it as it is in their perspective, in like whatever this raw entity's perspective of what they've come to know over a lot longer time of evolution than we've been around for. So it also, they don't speak. It's never spoken in like complex mathematical or like any kind of scientific or even religious terms. It's just, this is the law of one. It's very simple. It's kind of, I mean, of course it's going to be simple, like something, the more, I feel like the more information you get, the simpler things kind of tend to appear to be. So at that level, it makes sense that what it's saying is pretty simple. And the only real times that it will even get more complicated, like at least the responses that it will give, is when the researchers, the guys who are actually there inquiring, are asking questions about like the Egyptians and like how do you know this, and those kind of things. So it's really just a like a conduit for like this law of one, and that's pretty much all it. It's not like spouting information. It's only responding to these queries, to these questions.
Mm-hmm.
So it doesn't really try to, it just lets them answer, lets them ask whatever they want to ask, and gives pretty simple answers related to the law of one, and that's pretty much it. But so far, at least, I don't know if it'll get more detailed or, they hopefully. I mean, I haven't looked ahead, but I think they start to ask questions about like extraterrestrials and positive extraterrestrials and negative and like all kinds of outside topics. So I'm sure they'll get to that eventually, but I'm only on like the fifth or sixth session that they've done
Out of how
out of
many?
106. So yeah, we'll see.
How is God not one? God is not one.
I mean, it's it's interesting, and I'm enjoying reading about the different world religions, but I think it started off more engaging for some reason because I don't know, I didn't really know where to begin with my like personal faith journey or whatever.
Yeah.
So I enjoyed reading about like Christianity and Islam, and because I didn't know anything about Islam really. I just read the whole chapter on Judaism today.
Oh,
which is really, really cool to read about. The Yoruba religion just sounds like
Yoruba.
yeah.
What is that?
It's a West African religion.
Okay.
It's got like 100 million followers worldwide,
Wow.
which I didn't even know existed.
Yeah.
Like,
I didn't either until right now.
yeah. So,
What is there any information about that you can?
oh jeez,
Sure.
I honestly, it was like so like spiritual and just whack. Like at least for me,
Yeah.
right?
But I'm sure reading
not
it is
like
probably
not like Christianity is like isn't
Less,
like
yeah.
fantastical or doesn't
Mhm.
make any more sense. But like for whatever reason, like all I can really say about it is like there are several, and Colin, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but like there are like several deities, and each deity is flawed in its own way, like very, very human. Some deities are like they take the form of like the mountains or the river, and
Okay.
others exist in the beyond, like in the sky or whatever. And I really just like skimmed through it because I was just like not engaged with it at all. I was like, okay, this just sounds crazy, and I don't really care. So, sort of pulling the Mark Manson, just if it doesn't apply to me right now, then I'm just gonna skip it because I didn't really see what I was gonna get out of it by like really paying attention to it. Yeah. So, but it seemed like there's like sort of like some overlap between like that and Hinduism, because Hinduism is, polytheistic, and all the deities are very flawed as well and very human, anthropomorphized. They all have human characteristics and stuff. And what's interesting about Hinduism though is like you can literally just, the idea is that you pick a god, and you devote yourself to them and you pray to them. But it's interesting that like you have a choice.
You have a choice. Yeah, that's
it's like okay.
that's a newer concept.
Yeah.
At least a rarer concept when you look at them. I feel like on a whole, choosing.
Well, I don't know. I feel like
I
think the Yoruba religion is
Yeah.
similar in that regard. I don't think you can like obviously
I guess
devote yourself to
any
all of them.
polytheistic religion is kind of like that, but
like the Greek,
Yeah.
ancient Greek
yeah.
gods and yeah, it was amusing to read, but I'm really looking forward to the Taoism chapter, like a lot. So that's why I was sort of like
Going through.
I was trying to finish Judaism as fast as possible before you guys got here, so I could just start on Taoism tomorrow or something. But the book's good. Learn to
Anything about Judaism that you picked? Any new?
I realized that like they're not as spiritual as I thought. It's a lot of, I'm sure Leah's talked with you about this, but it's a lot of like law and ethics.
Yeah.
And most Jews or I wouldn't say most Jews, but there are many Jews who are not spiritual and do not believe in a God. And there's different like different types of the Jewish faith. Like there's Reform Judaism. There's Orthodox Judaism.
Yeah.
But there's a branch of Judaism that's like literally they're agnostic, but they're still Jewish. And
That's similar. Yeah, it's kind of similar to her.
yeah.
A little bit.
And there are, I mean, there's a couple people in the dorm that I've briefly spoken with about their faith, and so far, the Jewish people that I've met, none of them believe in God.
Okay.
Which I think is interesting.
Yeah.
And there's only one guy in the building wearing a yarmulke.
Yeah.
So,
I think I saw him in the parking
so I think
lot.
he's if I had to guess, I think he's Orthodox because I read in the book that Orthodox. Read in the book, right?
And you're probably right. I mean,
but I have to ask him, but the Orthodox wear the yarmulkes, and then like people like David or
yeah,
or
they're not.
They
they're
don't
not.
wear them because
No.
they don't care. They don't believe in a God.
Yeah, it's funny because
Just
what Leah talks about is
ethnicity.
like what's at the core is like questioning everything. Or, like,
Exactly,
why,
yes.
Why?
Yep.
Why?
Yep.
And I think that's probably why that secular part of it exists. As some of them are agnostic because they've questioned enough, I guess, or they're, I guess, just maybe born into that kind of.
Mm-hmm. But there's also a lot of those, I guess you call them denominations of Judaism. A lot of them are a lot more like what's the word? Progressive than I was expecting. Like a lot of them have like female rabbis, and there are like they're called bat mitzvahs instead of bar mitzvahs for girls who are coming of womanhood or whatever.
I thought that
or
was
they
like
turn
a
12.
universal thing. No, that did not used to be.
Well, I don't think it used to be.
Just bar
I
mitzvahs
think
and
it's.
that
I
was
think
it.
it. Because every religion has been very like
Yeah,
male dominated,
that makes sense.
patriarchal.
That makes
so
sense.
It's like
I don't know why I thought that, but yeah.
so.
Yeah.
It's cool that like a good proportion or a good portion of like the Jewish followers are like, they're pretty progressive and they are implementing beliefs of today and not just like sticking with the archaic traditions of the past just because So that was pretty cool to read about. Yeah.
Yeah. And while at the same time still like following at least some traditions that are like central.
Not to say that
that's
all
cool.
tradition is
No,
bad.
for sure.
But
No,
there's
there's a
definitely
good
a
variety.
lot that's just
Yeah,
really needs
very
to be
archaic.
forgotten. And
Yeah.
So what'd you like about Confucianism?
well, man, it's been like a couple of weeks since I read that, but I think what appealed to me was like the like respect. The sort of like mutualistic relationships that exist, like father and son, husband and wife, sort of like the yin yang and everything, and how every relationship should be ideally like very mutualistic, and there should be equal respect. And I'm trying to remember what else, but I think Confucius also he proposed like the golden rule like before Jesus, and like I don't know, there was just a lot about that religion that just sort of like resonated with me more as like a way of life than a religion.
Okay.
It's like a pseudo religion. It's you don't pray to anyone. I don't know if you pray to. Do you pray to Confucius as a Confucian?
That sounds.
I don't know. I don't think.
What's the difference between a pseudo religion and a real
so
religion?
I guess a god.
Sorry,
probably,
I guess there are different ways. Yeah, because
How do you-
classifies
yeah.
religion. And he uses like 5 categories to like what makes up a religion, and it's like ritual and like spirituality, and there's 5 of them. I couldn't name all of them, but like Confucianism.
is missing.
It's missing like
at
the
least
spiritual, or not the spiritual, but it's missing like the deity, right,
Yeah.
in that faith. But it's still a religion. So even Prothero was like, yeah, it's kind of hard to pinpoint what exactly Confucianism is. Some people view it as a religion, other people don't. He claims it's a religion, and he explains why. So sorry, not a pseudo religion, but it's just like more difficult to define, sort of like Buddhism, because there's no deity.
Right.
So.
Colin, do you think
Same thing with Taoism. Same thing with.
Yeah, I have a question for you, Colin. On that note, do you think the distinction is important, or as long as there is a guiding force, doesn't matter if it's a deity enforced one or not?
I think the term is irrelevant.
Yeah.
Because it was.
Religion?
Yeah, it was first introduced in the
distinction,
19th century when they.
Or I guess
European comparativists.
on that. How about the difference between the the enforcement of that way of thinking with a deity or without? Is there a real difference in application or
Capitalism could be a religion.
Yeah,
Atheism
true.
could be a religion.
True.
Anything. So it could be
In what
the
way?
absence.
Do you
of
think having a god
deity.
includes anything, like enforces anything or adds anything to a way of thinking that something else without a deity doesn't have?
Myself, I don't know exactly how to classify religion,
Yeah.
if it's with a deity or not. Even after taking that class, I don't know. but I do know that dogma is part of it, and that's why you could. It's hard to make the separation between, or the distinction between a cult and religion,
Mm-hmm.
because we know intuitively what a cult is, but can we look at like Pentecostals or Lutherans or
You're in a
or
cult.
Mormon? I mean,
Yeah. Where's the line?
yeah.
Yeah, true.
Where's the line? What do you think about Mormonism?
It's funny because people
You should
joke
watch
about
that
Mormonism
video.
as a cult all the time,
Right?
as being a cult, and same with Pentecostals, speaking in tongues. And
How is that different from Scientology or Heaven's Gate or?
we all just think everyone else is crazy. Everyone else is in a cult. My
Or
religion.
not.
My religion is
mine's
normal.
not a cult. What are
I
you
don't-
talking about?
So, is it fair to say that we all are a part of some cult in some
Yeah,
way,
sure.
shape, or form?
Anything you think is, I mean, any like non-objective thought in a way is part of a cult, part of your own cult, your own ideological cult that you develop.
Can you have objective thought?
No thought is the absence of thought is objective.
Yeah.
There you go. Okay.
End the episode.
Yeah.
The absence of
The
thought
absence
is
of
objective.
thought is objective. No.
Wait, what was your first question that you threw at Colin before you asked him like 4 more?
Well, I was just trying to clear. It wasn't really.
Should a
It wasn't a good
religion
question.
be required
Yeah,
to have a
and
deity
it wasn't
in
a
order
good-
to be?
Not
deemed that.
really like.
And then you said capitalism could be a religion,
Yeah.
or
anything is an idea. I mean, ideology,
So-
religion. The word doesn't really.
Yeah. So
matter.
is ideology and religion interchangeable? And atheists also, they claim to say that God doesn't exist, but nobody knows. Because I've thought about that recently. Christopher Hitchens, a famous atheist, said that the burden of proof lies on those who claim that God exists,
Mhm.
like the Christians or Muslims. But
I feel like that's kind
the
of
same thing. The
it's the
obverse
same-
is true
yeah.
with atheism too. If you maintain that God doesn't exist, then
Prove that.
how is that any different? Yeah.
You got to prove. I mean, yeah. There's no way to prove either side of it, or there's definitely not a way to prove not, unless you could somehow. Yeah, I mean that's just
There's no way to
both
prove
ways
anything.
it's infallible. Yeah.
So it's gosh. So yeah, are we all just supposed to live as if God exists? Because
The Peterson way.
yeah, it's easier to
Yeah,
deal with the fact that you're gonna die someday. And
Exactly.
It's just better to believe in something.
at least it's your it's like a fallback plan for atheists. There you go. That's
What do you mean a
that's almost
fallback plan?
well, that's like how Peterson thinks about it. At least it seems like he
Like
does.
Pascal's wager of
Kind of. Yeah. Living as if sounds like kind of an excuse.
But what God are we talking about here? If you're saying
No,
live
any.
as if God
My God.
exists. Yeah,
Any.
My
because-
God.
Any. Something.
Yeah. Well,
Something.
how do you live
Isn't
as
it-
Yeah,
if
how do
that
you
God
live?
exists?
I mean,
Like,
that's
that's a good
question.
point. How are you supposed to devote yourself properly
yeah
to that God?
because
And
you're
who's coming up
already
with this stuff?
you're already presupposing that that's
Sure.
the male Christian God.
Well, you
Or-
don't have to.
or whoever
God. I mean,
you've
when you
been
say the
raised
word
with.
God, could be anything. Could just be. I mean, I like to just think of it as a higher power, and that's it. That's as far as my
So
definition
how
goes.
do you live with that?
I don't mean that. At least in Peterson's case, that probably just means pointing himself in some kind of continuous direction. That could be anywhere.
Does that include faith?
Yeah, I just think it's like his mindset, just his continuous mindset that he lives with.
How do you know God wants faith?
Once, not a faith. That's not, I didn't say a faith. I just said like a mindset, a way of thinking, a personal way of thinking, oriented towards like a set of his own personal goals, or I mean, it could be completely determined by him, but he's living as if there's a set of morals that exist outside of himself that are, I don't know,
Sure,
universal.
like a theory of forms.
Sure.
So, as in morality exists outside of, there's some higher form of truth.
I guess. I think we kind of did this the last time, kind
Yeah.
of similar.
Mm.
I don't know if I pulled some weird definition of, or would you ask, why is meaning inherent, or what was it? I can't remember the question, but remember that answer?
I don't know.
I
what
was
the
like
question
connecting.
was.
Oh, well, it doesn't matter, but
Doesn't matter.
it took like all my brain power the last time to think about it and pull.
That was a great question. I do remember it being a really good
It,
question.
It
was
was.
it like why is meaning
Inherent.
conflated with God? Or
Kinda. It was something like that, and I was like talking about the positive connotation of meaning, and that was it. Yeah, but it was a long answer and not really worth going into again. But so you're gonna pay? I already asked you this earlier, but you gonna shell out $100 for Michael Segura?
No,
5 minutes?
not worth it. But if you had to ask one question, what would you?
To him?
Yeah. We're talking about a professor of philosophy who I don't know where he teaches, or he used to teach. But he's been
Out of his
all
basement
over,
on Zoom.
Now out of his basement. But he's probably one of the most eloquent people I've heard, and can distill very complex ideas into like a 40-minute lecture and puts them up on YouTube.
Yep. When were those shot? When were the majority of those shot?
It looks
I
like the
wonder?
80s.
80s.
Yeah.
It's funny that I don't know if it was his idea to shoot them, but glad he did.
It's like the 80s Peterson.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So what question would you guys
Yeah.
ask?
Well, I did read that he's a Christian, but believes in Socratic principle. I don't know, something like that. So your question shouldn't be like, oh, what do you believe in?
Oh, well, I was literally gonna say that.
Right.
I was literally gonna say like,
I read your mind.
what do you believe in and why?
Right.
Because he's such a brilliant man, and he's spent literally his entire life probably trying to figure that out. Like, give me a shortcut, please.
No one has it. He probably would just say, "I don't know."
Thanks for the $100.
And there's your $100. So what happened to you, Michael?
There's
what
a
I'd
better
s-
question.
That's what I'd say. Time. Do you have any idea what yours would be? Or you just start BSing with him for 5 minutes?
I don't think
that
you
worth
have
$100?
that luxury for 5 minutes to. Yes, you have to be very
Well, I know that. I just
intentional.
meant like, what are you gonna like? What's how intentional can you be with that question? How are you gonna know what to ask?
Fine, just throw something out there.
Non-answer frog over
I
here.
don't know.
I don't know.
Oh,
Let's say you paid
have an idea?
$100. You paid $100. You have 5 minutes. What's like the first thing that comes to mind? Maybe it's something related to one of the lectures he's spoken on. Yeah, I know. This is like being in Memphis. I remember like sitting at that table. It was like 1 a.m. and a lady came by. Why do you want to recommendations? And we're all just like peering down the table, like calling like this.
What is that from?
Remember in Memphis? We were like,
Beale Street, remember?
like, what's the song? Pick a
Oh,
song.
yeah.
Pick a
Like,
song.
Ah.
We play anything.
Yep. Just cave under pressure.
I got nothing. Come back to me. Come back to me. I'll come back to you. She never did. But I mean, I don't think anybody. I feel like
It shouldn't be that difficult.
Yeah,
I
I
mean,
know.
what's the first thing that comes to mind?
I don't know. I'll think about it.
all right.
and then-
Well, we'll come back to you then. Yeah, I feel like a grand total of about one person is probably paid for that, based on this conversation. What are you going to ask that you can't glean from one of his videos or
Right.
something,
Right.
or from another video? It'd have to be like a personal question. Like that's why mine's. I think that was a genuine like random thing that I thought, what happened? Like, I mean, he really doesn't. He actually doesn't look
Yeah,
that
and
bad.
even his
considering.
biography, like
voice.
I could ask him something about how he fell into philosophy
Yeah.
and lecture.
That's honestly probably the most
but
interesting thing you get.
You can just probably look that biography up or
Yeah.
find it out
True.
somehow.
Or maybe like, what did you
It's
wish?
just a scam.
I mean, you could
yeah.
ask him like, what did you wish you did in college? Or
Like, he's
I don't
not
know.
God. I mean,
Yeah. I don't know.
he's not the
$100
oracle.
I do like the question that you asked a while ago. Like, if you had 5 minutes with God, what would you ask? And it's sort of the same thing. It's
Yeah.
like it's pointless.
Right.
Which is another thing that I want to ask.
If you had 5 minutes with God, that'd be all you needed to get just that experience alone. You wouldn't have to say anything. You wouldn't need to. Because that'd be it. That'd what
Just
you'd
being
get.
there would be
yeah.
enough.
You'd be like, okay, I'm fulfilled, and then go away.
Oh, I guess that's true. Because then it's like, okay, I
Huh?
have nothing to worry about.
I have nothing to worry about. Yeah. There you
Just
go. It's kind of a
existence is
paradoxical
Yeah.
situation.
Huh. Okay. Well, here's another thing. So, like, obviously, we love and hate mystery, right?
Mm.
We want to know answers, but we don't at the same time. We want to know how the magic trick's done, but we don't. So, if you could know the true meaning of life, would you want to know? Or would you want it to remain a mystery forever? Let's just assume that there is a meaning
Okay, sure.
The meaning
I
of
feel like-
your life
I
or
feel
the
like
meaning
there's
of
so
everybody's
many-
life?
of your life individually.
You mean your purpose?
Sure. Like, what's your purpose? Why am I here? All the big questions sort of like mashed into one. If you could know, would you want to know? Or would you want it to remain a mystery forever?
I don't know. That's
Because we spend our entire lives reading different philosophical perspectives, reading about different religions, trying to get answers, trying to figure out what the hell we believe in. But if you had the option to just take a shortcut,
You mean your life's calling?
sure, your life's calling, yeah.
Well, you're talking about it in terms of like religion, as in finding your relationship with some higher power.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So which one?
That one. Your relationship with a higher power. Like, I guess I'm
Meaning-
asking too many questions.
Yeah,
at
meaning
once.
like you would
Yeah.
want to
Okay,
have
let me-
God reveal himself to you, or
Okay, let me think about this. How about purpose? What's my purpose? If there is one.
what do you mean by purpose?
that's what I'm saying. There's
Bastard.
a lot of different ways to think about purpose. Though it's this thing. It's a word, so has
Whatever it means to you.
I don't. I have
What do
no
you mean
I
by
have
the
no
question?
idea how to answer that.
Yeah, if you had to answer your own question.
Thanks. All right, I'll just
I'm trying.
shut up.
I don't know what to say though. I'm trying to.
No, I'm
If it's
curious
related to
to know
life,
what you
then
how you would answer your own question, because then I can know how.
yeah,
to.
no, I'd agree with that. Well, there's no other way to answer it. I don't know what
You
you
probably
mean.
wouldn't answer it anyway. You probably just
I could
deflected.
answer if I knew the. That's like such an abstract question, though. That's like Colin asking, "What's time?" Because if it's like purpose in your, it's like, is it spiritual or is it just like
How specific
genuine
do you want me to be?
path?
Okay, so
I would say in a religious sense, I could probably give you an answer. If it was like purely religious, spiritual perspective of your purpose, or your, what was the other one? Not purpose, but your meaning, or the
life's
meaning
calling,
of
or that's what.
the. Okay, well, sure, something like that. Like, what's the true nature of your? Wait. Were we saying what the question you would ask, or how you would answer the question?
I'm trying to figure out the exact question I'm trying to throw at you guys. So give me a minute.
Because in a religious, spiritual sense, I could answer it, but otherwise, I don't know. It's too ambiguous. But in that sense, I could probably answer.
Okay. Well then, in a religious, spiritual sense, how would you answer that question?
Of just like, what's your? Sorry.
See, again, it's like
different.
the question
I think
isn't
I have.
solid.
I think I have a. I would say it would be, at least for me, on that sense, it'd be to determine my.
Hold on, I don't even know what I'm asking.
Okay, well, and I can answer like that, like what I'd like to figure out purpose-wise, in a spiritual religious sense, would be to define like the true, like the true purpose of like a relationship with a higher power. Like, what is that? What is that supposed to be? Like, is it supposed to be love, or what's the? That'd probably be something along the lines of, at least in a spiritual sense, of what the, like the orientation of a relationship is supposed to be like. What are you supposed to feel or give towards that kind of like higher power, or feel towards it? I guess that'd be the best. It's like orientation of relationship with the higher power. And that's probably the most, at least in the religious sense. That's all I could probably say, or spiritual, whatever. If you could figure out whatever your purpose in that sense could be. The thing is, the only way to figure that out is really like on a personal level. So you don't even know if it's right. Really. The only way you can gauge if it's right or not is however much you feel that it is right. So hopefully something's, you can determine that yourself. But if you could figure that out, then I feel like that'd be a good answer. But there'd be no way to tell if that was right. You just have to take your own faith on the way that you have oriented yourself is the correct way. Which the only real, like, seemingly like silver bullet for any of this kind of stuff related to faith is like love. It's like overpowering love, and that's like that's very consistent throughout most of these,
So you'd have to feel that 24/7, or
I don't know. No. Just in your relationship towards a higher power. But yeah, of course, 24/7, ideally. But at least in context of your relationship with this higher power, in whatever spiritual sense you carry in your life, whether that's inconsistent or continuously or whenever, that would be if you could figure out the correct orientation for that, I think that'd be helpful, because then you would know what to output, like, I don't know, like emotionally or I don't know what I'm saying anymore. But the more I talk, the more it's just going to dissolve into nothing, into blah 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 blah. But that's about the best answer I can give.
The best answer to my non-question.
Yeah, and it's funny because like I've already kind of answered it right there. If there is only like one, I don't know how else are you supposed to feel besides that, just towards the universe in general. That's kind of what the law of one presents, which now everything I say is tainted by that book. So that's fun. But
maybe we just stop asking questions.
that's probably
Maybe.
the best. That's probably the best. Well, I
Maybe
mean,
we stop being curious.
I don't know, but
In
I feel like
what
you should.
sense?
I feel like you should always be asking questions to yourself. Like
No, I agree.
internal
I mean, that's
questions.
the
No,
thrill of the
devil's
chase,
advocate.
pretty
Yeah.
much.
the internal
But-
questions are.
Yeah,
And-
but if you want to see the world as it really is, then you have to divest yourself of
Yeah. Of
all
your
those
own
barriers.
No,
all
you're right.
those onion rings.
And the questions as well, because the questions themselves kind of lead to that.
It's kind of like a seed of doubt that you have to
Exactly.
remove from your
Exactly.
mind.
That's kind of like faith in another sense, I guess you could think of it like that. Another thing I heard on Rogan, I don't know what episode it was. I don't think it was the Strassman episode, but was the origin of the voice in your head. You don't have to listen to that all the time. The origin of that voice is your inner monologue is most likely not you. Is not whatever is contained within whatever you like to think of as yourself. So it may not be telling the truth all the time.
Yeah, who do you think that is?
The creator, or at least related to that book, that's what it says. I don't know personally. I don't know. The universe itself, who the hell knows? Collective consciousness. Everybody's bug brain just put together, and that's like what's coming out. This monologue based on your, I don't know. What I wonder sometimes is, what would that be like without language? Was that bicameral mind, same kind of thing there? Would that blow you away or what? Like if that was true?
Well, now we have the perspective of being able to
Control
talk
it?
and then going
What?
back to our primitive roots of before language. But we talked about this.
No. I just meant. I know that. I just
looking
meant,
at a banana and not thinking banana.
No, I know. But
Not even thinking yellow.
but having God
Delicious.
having God or whatever was speaking. What if you were never in control of that inner monologue? I mean, maybe you're not in control now, but you think you have.
You
an
mean the
element of- bicameral mind.
Yeah.
As if before, and that's what was the connection to history? Oh, that's what. So, in that book, prophets were the last of a dying breed. So every prophet was a person that, like, as the bicameral mind became less frequent, like more rare, prophets were the only ones left with the connection straight to God with that inner monologue being spoken to them. So it's kind of a, but like, would that astound you, or I don't know? It's kind of a weird theory.
Well, how did we shift from that mind to the conscious mind? Was it the stoned ape theory? Or
Yeah, like the development of a more individual, less collective. That might be something like some weird pseudo explanation of what may have happened with, I don't know if it's through stoned ape theory or how exactly it occurred, but like the development of a more individual consciousness that started to grow apart from that collective, everybody hearing the same voice of God. I don't know. I need to read that. I mean, that's another endless. Have you? You didn't read that, did you? No, you just heard about it.
you've been concentrating hard over there. What are you thinking about?
Nothing.
Nothing. Yep. Same. Welcome to the club.
It's the way to go.
I guess like what are we chasing then? I mean, if we like partially
Personal
acknowledge
contentment.
Well, that's the thing is you're gonna chase everything,
Forever.
and then you're gonna end right back
The same
up
place.
at the same place.
Yeah. You have to do something with your ape body while you're alive.
Well, that's
no.
I'm
That's not saying. I'm saying like spiritually.
Oh,
like
yeah.
Yeah. Well,
what the hell are we chasing?
you're chasing yourself.
You're chasing a tail of yourself.
Great.
Yep.
Really. Because everything you ever need is contained within you. You just have to. I think you just have to I feel like that's kind of like the end goal. I mean, obviously, do all the research you can to get perspective. But if you want to, you don't have to. But yeah, I feel like it's kind of paradoxical because I feel like everybody's born with that, and they've just trained themselves out of it through society and through their own, because they don't know what they don't know. That's what happens. And then you kind of just eventually end up in the same place.
Well,
You
that's
just
what
make circles.
Yeah. That's what that book Siddhartha talks about. With he goes Siddhartha.
I know.
Yeah. Talks about it's kind of like a pseudo Buddhist story, but he goes out and wanders with the ascetics in the forest, kind of like the Buddha, and tries that out and tries all the privation and the fasting and the meditation. That doesn't work to gain moksha or nirvana. and then he goes and civilizes himself and becomes like this, I don't know, bureaucrat, and sleeps with women and has all like the riches and the success and fame. That doesn't work either. And so then he returns to nature just by himself, and he's by the river, and then he has a sudden like aha Damascus moment where
It only takes one.
it's just me.
Yeah,
I've been here this whole time.
I like it.
Yeah. I know you brought up a good point of the primal you of the child, and how I've been reading a little bit about this, so I don't want to like go into it yet because I haven't formed my opinions on it, but there's this castration complex that Freud, I think, talked about, and it's where the baby comes out of the womb and then you're being like nourished by your mother.
Mm-hmm.
And the minute that you're separated from that, then you start to perceive duality and polarity and like your own separateness in the world. But before that moment, you were total nourishment, total love, total bliss. You were just there. You were being. And then as soon as you got stripped away from that, then you kind of had this Oedipus jealousy for your father. And then it descends from there, pretty much.
Great.
Yeah. Woo.
You're whole for
Because then you're
good
fed
total.
all this
Yeah.
information
Yeah,
of
yeah.
how reality not really is, but you think it is. And then, like I said last podcast, it's all conflict over who thinks they've got the ultimate grasp on
Truth.
reality.
Yeah.
Which
That's why.
nobody does.
That's why nothing. That's why that I love that Siddhartha. Like, you've come full circle, and you're back to. You don't need anything to be everything, or to be the only way to achieve any kind of objective. I feel like is without any of that information that you've sucked in over the years.
It's kind of like dissolving your symbolic self, because we have the curse of being born with, we have a symbolic version of us, and then we have a physical finite body.
Mm-hmm.
And no other animal has that. So we have to
integrate those.
We have to integrate, reconcile, and transcend one, supposedly.
Yeah.
But if you transcend your first self, then you're left with your physical body. And the goal is to be rid of yourself so you can know your true self. There's
There
too
you
many
go.
selves.
Yep. How was that? I just like looked over and you were like bugging it. You were like doing some face at the call.
My head's gonna explode one day.
Yep.
That's all.
And if your head explodes with dark forebodings too, I'll see you on the dark side of the moon. I've been thinking about that verse because I haven't really analyzed the lyrics at all. I've just kind of listened to it countless times and never actually thought about it. But the dam breaks open many years too soon, and if there is no room upon the hill.
The hill is mentioned so many times, and like the people on the hill, those on the hill, the fools on the hill.
Yeah. I wonder.
Wasn't there another Beatles song? Or I don't know if it's Beatles or Lennon.
If you want to
The
be like
Fool-
the folks on the hill.
Well, not that, but there's also the
Fool on the hill.
Fool on the hill,
Yeah.
right?
Beatles, yeah. But if the dam breaks open many years too soon, and if there is no room upon the hill, what do you think the dam is?
Damn. I feel like I'd have to look at the whole context of the song
Right.
to get a good idea of what that might be.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's what I was doing the whole, like, whenever we were listening to that album, To the Wall. I was trying, I mean, I could only do it so much in the moment, but trying to do that at the same time. At least get, like, little gists here and there.
Day after
Oh, maybe
day,
this.
love turns gray like the skin on a dying man. That's one of the lyrics.
All right,
Got
we're
my
at-
little black box with my poems in it. Got my something, toothbrush and a comb. If I'm a good dog, they sometimes throw me the bone.
What a depressing way to end the
That's
freaking
what I was
podcast.
saying.
Jeez.
Okay, what do you think about, like, you're just looping around in circles? Like, you're almost, like, looking for, like, something that's not there, but, like, it seems like something's there. You know what I mean? Like, in all these situations of, like, trying to figure out something, and then you just, like, get somewhere, and then you realize, did you actually go anywhere, or are you just back where you were? But it's like you can't get to that realization without, sometimes at least, you can't get to that realization with, and this comes with anything, without like doing some kind of external, looking at yourself from a third, getting outside your perspective. Then, even if you do end up in the same place, at least you know.
Here's a great Ram Dass quote. It's like, what will you be when you stop being what you think you are?
So like your objective state of being, kind of?
Mm-hmm.
Like, what is that?
When you totally dissolve the ego, what will you be?
And that's kind of all of what the Law of One is about realizing that.
Actually, isn't that the sort of the idea behind Taoist philosophy?
I was gonna say
I haven't read it yet.
You will love Taoism.
I know.
You
I
have
really
to. You
wanna
just have to read Tao Te Ching, but it talks about the eternal Tao
What?
was before God,
Yeah.
and that it's just this all-encompassing
Yeah.
force that rules the universe and is nameless. Look for it; it can't be seen. Reached, it can't.
Sounds
be
like that one
grasped.
might be the one that's closest to.
Yep.
Actual
I'm like,
knowledge.
how did this
isn't
guy
that,
know?
Isn't that Alan Watts's? Or no, he's
Yeah. Well, he's
Buddhist /
Zen Buddhist, but he's also
Okay. Sounds like those two,
Co-ops.
especially Taoism, might be closest.
Yeah. And then like the greatest art is unsophisticated. The greatest wisdom is childish.
Yeah, that kind of goes
True
back to those.
power seems weak. The direct path seems long. Yeah.
It's all just
then,
repetitions of
yeah.
the same idea,
Yeah.
pretty much.
Those are all just like oxymorons or paradoxes.
Oxymorons.
Oxymoron.
Oxymoron.
Michael
Paradoxes.
Zagru. Yeah. Yeah. Well, he says true words seem paradoxical.
That's in Tao Te Ching.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's like the very last verse. I'm going to leave you with this. I'm going to drop a bomb.
Mindfuckery.
Yep. True words seem paradoxical because I've already quoted the other one before, but the true words aren't eloquent. Eloquent words are true.
And that's how the mystery continues, is through like words like that, right? Even though there's no mystery, it's, I guess the human mind is looking for a more complex and comprehensive answer that doesn't exist, right? And so we're always left, well, there needs to be more. There's
Yeah.
got to be more. No, this can't be it.
I think he was onto something with the whole arriving, never being summoned, or arriving without leaving, overcoming without competing, teaching without speaking or imposing your will, teaching people to not know or unlearn, just like Teddy.
Mm-hmm. I just thought of a okay, so like 5 minutes with God, going back to that. I think something I would ask is how do I devote myself to you? Like how exactly? Or do I even do that?
Well, that's what you were talking about, right? With how do I love, or whatever that.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, kind of similar. I feel like there's too many infinite ways to like conceptualize the idea of God. So it's paradoxical because you know what I mean? Because you can think about it in so many different ways that it becomes almost impossible to get any real perspective on it. Any like there's, I don't, you know what I mean? Like it's almost impossible to gain objective perspective on that idea because it's extremely simple, but it's, I don't know. I feel like it can only really be achieved through meditation or
And the question is,
the
why
absence,
do we want to
the
know?
absence of that.
Why do we want to know what it is?
Because we need
God.
a symbol. We
Oh.
need a I don't know. It's like an innate human thing. I feel like.
Yeah, where does that
Trying to
instinct come
associate
from?
that.
I was literally thinking about that earlier in the podcast.
I don't know. Well, I think it's just you're trying to define it. You need a this equals this. You need a, you know, like take away the word love. It's just all that feeling is just like a positive outflowing, kind of. So, you know, but we need the word.
I'm saying, where does that instinct come from?
Oh,
The intuition that, oh, maybe there is a God. Is that?
Where does that come from, or
Yeah.
or what is the instinct to call it something, what was your question you said before that? You said to something what it is, or to name it, or what was your question?
There's three. There's
To
three.
see
in
what
there.
it is,
Yeah.
or
No, why
to-
do we want to know what it is? I'm not gonna say he. I'm
Oh.
not gonna say she.
Yeah, I get it. I get it.
And not even it.
It just, I don't know. It might be. It's not. I don't think. I think that question is better answered by. We want to know. We want to understand. That's pretty much all it'd be.
Why
not
do we
not
wanna
know what
understand?
it is, but understand.
Sure. Yeah. No. I agree.
Does it all
but-
stem from fear? From
Right.
The fear of death.
Fear
Is
and
that
love
literally,
are
is that
fear and
literally
love
it?
are the two. Do you remember in that? Do you remember in Donnie Darko?
Yeah,
There's
fear and
like that
love,
really
yeah.
dumb,
Yeah.
funny, but that's true. I mean, that's really true. It's all a spectrum of those two things, really, kind of. Obviously, there's more complex emotions than that, but if you really want to simplify it, that's kind of what.
But like
is.
the evolutionary like significance or like the need for like a pineal gland and like endogenous DMT, like why do we need this stuff? Why do we need spirituality? Like why is it so ingrained in us as the human animal? And does it all stem from fear? From this like primordial fear of death? And it just hasn't left us.
I don't know. I think it's.
Right.
I think the fear of death is probably at its most core. Probably more obviously. It's so old that it has kind of worked itself into the most basic of fears, but it's obviously it's more of a bio. Like if you have any kind of spiritual beliefs, then I feel like it's more like just a biological fear, and that's where it's coming from, and it's not really anything more than that. Because, why does it need to? I don't know. I feel like we've kind of got off track of the question, but that's I don't know. Besides that, I think it'd probably be more biological, and it's like so old. I mean, that's like every animal's core instinct, right? Is of death, is to survive, avoid death. How to avoid, how to continue. But
Well, I don't think they're aware of their own mortality. But
No,
they,
no,
but
no, no.
yeah, of pain and
yeah,
pleasure.
we've just kind of
of just patterns.
we've realized that that's the end of our physical body.
You
right?
don't think a chimp was aware of when his mother just suddenly stopped moving and just started
We don't know. We
decaying?
can't read that.
Well, I know,
Can't read
but
their thoughts.
I'm
I'm saying-
saying also assume that like chimps weren't aware of like
Right.
They might have been aware of it, but
Of
like
death.
how much of it is emotion? How much of it is okay? Now my protection is gone, or now my source of food is gone. So by a biological need that's no longer being met, either externally with like a mother dying, like you just said, or I as an ape, I realize when my physical body dies, I'm no longer I can't. There's no reproduction and everything else. But that sounds like it's probably the most core biological imperative, or one of them. And so we've probably over time integrated that with whatever is whatever spiritual outside of I don't have enough information to continue this, but
Okay, they might be
You know what I mean.
thinking about death, but they're not thinking about transcending death,
yes,
as in moving beyond that. And also, they're not thinking.
they're not
about,
scared of what's after,
Right.
or what might not be after.
And when a deer gets shot by a hunter, do you think he says, "Well, there goes Gerald," and then everybody like has a 2-week mourning period of that? No, they just move on. It's one less.
mouth defeat.
Yeah.
Mm. The only reason that we do that is because we realize there's an idea of that person maybe that transcends
Right.
death, right?
It's the
What
idea
they
of the
established, what they represented, how their actions, how those actions define them, but those are all ideological. This person in purely in a mental architecture, like so let's say whoever it is dies, you have all that exists in now is this mental architecture that you've built of this person, right? And that's all that existed is that. But it's a higher existence, really. Just because it doesn't exist in a tangible form, it's only. Yeah,
So who are you? Are you an idea? Or are you your physical body?
Well, everybody
How do you
else's
define
perspective.
yourself?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, you're a pinhole of consciousness. That's all.
Is your name just kind of floating out in the ether?
Yeah, I
Your
mean,
accomplishments. Your
everybody else has
your
a perspective.
family,
Everybody
your
else.
education.
Here's the thing: is everybody else has like a mental architecture of, whatever you appear to be. Maybe you have one of yourself. Maybe it's distorted, or whatever. And I just mean purely like personality and all these kind of intangible, like aspects of the way you operate. But I don't know. I don't think you can really. You're just going to be endlessly peeling back layers.
What was that for?
Little moment of clarity.
That's the response to end all responses.
That's what reality
gonna be
is.
my
Have
death-
you ever heard of that? Did you watch that, Alan Watts?
What?
No.
Well, he has a lecture on
Life is
this is
just
what
a-
reality is, and he rings a gong.
Yeah.
And it's the eternal now. It's like
Mhm.
there's no past, there's no present. It's just right here. And
Vibration.
realizing that you're not your memories too, because there's all kinds of theories of who are you, and then they like Locke talks about the memory theory, and well, that's kind of unreliable because you could be confabulating, or you don't remember everything, and you don't remember things that are before 3 unless you read your brother.
Yeah.
But so memory is unreliable. Then, well, are you your physical body? Well, your cells change all the time. They die and regenerate, and you shed your
You're
skin.
not even you.
So you're not
Just-
you every day. You
no.
wake up as a new person every day. So how can people expect you to be somebody
Yeah.
that you were yesterday but aren't today?
Hmm.
Good luck with that.
Man, I'd have thought.
Got one.
It's really trying to find the eternal you, whatever that is. And there might not be any metaphysics at all. It might be all bogus,
Yeah.
all piffle.
Oh.
That would suck.
That would suck.
Well, think about a T-Rex. Is he thinking about devoting himself to Allah?
No.
Or no? So why in the last 2,000?
But it
or
appears that we're
10,000?
special apes for some reason. That's the real question. Why are we special apes? And everybody
Maybe that's
why is
just the
everybody
ego,
else?
maybe just thinking
How
that
would
we're
that-
special.
But here's the thing: is every other there have been animals that have lived that have been around a lot longer than us, and they never got anywhere. They had a lot more time to evolve, and never got anywhere.
Have you heard about Terence McKenna's novelty theory
No,
and the whole
I might have.
asymptotic
no.
graph
Is there
of
anything
the
you-
world? What?
Is there? No, I have not.
No.
No.
But
Do you want to talk about that?
alien
'Cause I don't
speech.
know.
Let's just start babbling. Well, yeah, I can briefly go into it. And he talks about how the universe is shaped in a asymptote, where in the beginning God created the earth, but also hydrogen and helium, bang, and then the world formed, but everything was kind of just trundling along at a slow rate, and then and just speeds up as time goes along. And so time is like speeding up
Oh.
because of the number of events that happen in a second. And so suddenly civilization is on and he's like, yeah, we have intimations of the apocalypse, and that's why Christianity and other religions talk about the end times, and philosophers like Hegel talk about we are the apogee of existence. And you could say, okay, that's just a bunch of BS, and that we've always been predicting the end times. And people thought that Y2K was the end time, or that Terence McKenna thought December 21st, 2012 was going to be the
I
end time.
remember that.
And it never happens, but maybe their intuitions are somewhat on the
Somewhat
right,
right,
path,
yeah.
but maybe they're not.
Yep.
But that, and then he talks about how everything has been complexified over the years. It just used to be just nothing, an amoeba, and then now all of a sudden we can create full like feature film movies and make chips planted into our brain and all that. But is that just our words getting in the way of what we think complex is and what we think simple is?
I'd love to experience. I'd love to experience whatever it was like when when language didn't exist. That'd be, I don't know. That'd be really. Yeah, just experiencing the world in pure, just ideation, just like you just be in. I feel like you just be in a constant state of awe, or a constant state of some. I don't know if you know.
Everything is mysterious.
Would it be constant? That's the other question. Would it be constant?
What do you mean? Would it be constant?
Like whatever you were feeling, or would it just be this weird roller coaster of, I don't know, would it still be, I don't know, positive, negative connotations, or would it just be like a constant ride that you don't really know how it's changing, but it is changing? I don't know. Who knows? Because that doesn't mean emotions didn't exist. You just wouldn't have any way of defining them. So, it actually might suck because then you just have no way of expressing any of these things except just maybe screaming like an ape in a cage.
That's what I feel like doing
at the
right
zoo.
now. I feel, yeah. Yep.
That's like whenever you walk by the zoo and you're wondering, I wonder what all these guys are thinking in here, you know? And then you just see like the chimp like literally just like he's holding onto the bars and he's just going, That's what he's experiencing. 24/7 hell. Can't escape this cage. Yeah.
The terror of existence.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. Just screaming in space, nothing, forever. That's what he's experiencing all the time, on like a biological
That's
level.
us. We just repressed it pretty much.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just screaming into the void. Everybody walking by is like, look at that guy. He's having fun. That's awesome. That was always like the funniest thing to me as a kid, like walking by and just seeing like
cage.
some like foreign ancestor just screaming. That's funny.
Well, we have to have the answer because this is the last podcast. So, for a little bit.
This will be Not sure after this what the consistency of these podcasts will be, but who knows?
Wait, what did you say? We have to have the answer?
Yeah.
What do you mean by that?
The answer.
The answer to
with
the
capital
universe.
A.
Yeah, we're just
capital
gonna
T.
You know everything.
We're just going to solve everything right here.
Yep.
The answer is air.
Why do you think this sort of conversation is like so taboo? I feel like, you don't just talk about this kind of crap with normal people.
You're right.
Like, why is it so like?
It's because it's so repressed, like Colin just said. Kind of. You have to
What do you
peel back
mean?
the layers.
The investigation into your origin.
You have to
your
peel back
nature?
the layers. I feel like people don't want to face that truth most of the time.
Yes, there was. I'm trying to remember, but they
like to stack.
in the book Denial of Death, they talk about you have a fear of the knowledge of yourself. And then there was another book I read a long time ago, freshman year, where it talks about we fear seeing ourselves clearly.
There's also not a lot of practicality and like direct application to talking about this kind of stuff, right? Where does it ever get you?
Where's the utility?
Yeah, I know. That's what I was thinking of when I said
Where's
that.
the
But
utility?
for most people, there's not much. And they'd probably rather not burden themselves with more unknowns that they don't, they're already dealing with whatever the hell's going on in their regular, ape life. So they don't want to have to deal with all the other existential crap that's, you're loading on top of them by like asking one question or something. But we also just like to pile stuff, like in regular life. We just like to pile stuff on top of it and make it like at the very bottom of the pile, of like these mental, but you can occupy yourself with unlimited other things. At least, or distract yourself, however you want to pose that. And then you'll never get to it.
Are you distracting yourself by trying to find answers? Is that a form of distraction?
That's what I asked. I said, why ask questions?
Yeah,
why ask questions if it's not going to get you anywhere?
Well, like...
Because it's all just knowledge. That's what Thomas said. It's all just knowledge. It's not true understanding.
It's just perspective, knowledge, kind of same thing. information, even if it's not going to be helpful.
It's like trivia, pretty much.
Kind of,
It's
yeah.
just trivia.
Why do you know that? Why do you know that?
Yep.
Because it helps me. It's almost like the more things you can build like that, then you might know less, but you have like an intuition. Maybe your intuition is better because you have built up this library of information that you're not even like, most of the time I'm not even thinking about. I feel like the way it helps you is maybe it's intuition. Maybe it aids your intuition in some way, or your understanding of like what truth is, maybe. Even if most of the things aren't, they're just, like you just said, trivia, or, they're not applicable to daily life, but they just help you to wean out what's, the wheat from the chaff, that kind of thing. Figuring out what's worth anything, what's not worth anything, by doing that exploration or just asking questions.
Alan Watts says that we're just tubes.
Oh my God.
In one end, out the other. And we just leave behind a certain pile of information for other people, and then the cycle continues. And we simultaneously feel like we're gods and also worms. So that's the other predicament.
That's an odd one.
It's
I-
the phys-
it's
it's
pri-
the physical
yeah, it's the physical.
creatureliness
Yeah.
about us that makes us feel like worms.
Worms.
And then gods are some sort of like abstract, symbolic
Exactly.
self.
Exactly. Yeah. And if you didn't have that, if you could lose all that physicalness, then that's the ultimate state of being.
Well, it goes back to like asking why nature does the things that it does. Why does a bird fly north or west or wherever they fly? Not north. Go to space. That too. Why is that one random bird flying to Jupiter? Well, maybe he's curious. Maybe he's Icarus. But why does the bird fly west? Well, it's trying to survive.
Yeah.
Why is it trying to survive?
That's like
Because it just is.
Yeah.
Because it didn't have to question why it's here.
Mhm.
It doesn't have its purpose was dictated
Before.
to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, when it
A
was
long
born.
time ago. Yeah.
Whereas us, we have to somehow invent this meaning to make things even seem
Mhm.
remotely worthwhile.
Yeah. It's no longer just to survive.
Right.
Yeah.
It's almost
That's why most people didn't have this problem.
If only we could go back to hunter-gatherer times.
Yes.
It's not even that. I mean, even
No, seriously,
even for
like, that
even
would
until a
just
couple hundred years ago, really. That's really when that.
Well, true, yeah.
Middle Ages, they weren't giving a I mean, they're probably seeing ghosts, and who the hell knows?
I wouldn't want to go back to.
I would not either.
But like hunter-gatherer,
interesting.
there's something very beautiful about
yeah.
the simplistic way of life. Like
Yep.
you provide for your family. You're in a small tribe.
Mhm.
You
Those guys
you
weren't
hunt,
asking questions.
You gather. You maybe engage in some like occasional ceremony, like
Yeah.
the burial of a loved one
Mhm.
or celebration of life or whatever, and that's it. Like that's your
Yeah.
entire life. Is just
Yeah. You're not asking these questions.
there's no reason to.
And that's most of the time. I feel like that's how I try to operate. Except in these podcasts, it's just like, okay,
This is just like a little way for you to explore it for.
sure. Yeah. I
some
mean, most of the time I try to
temporary-
avoid that, like, because it's just like it's not worth. I don't know. I feel like it's not worth spending your mental energy on. Besides, like doing the things you were talking about. Reading things and trying to gain more perspective. But I don't think it's worth trying to contemplate that all the time.
Do we have anything else we want to say, or I have a good quote to wrap it up.
I don't know. I'm trying to think of when. No. Yeah, I don't know. No, I don't have anything.
I don't know.
Nothing further from me. What's your quote?
The lie. What? You were going to say something.
I just heard somebody's nostril inhale.
Yeah.
It
What
was
was
like
that?
making a squeaky noise.
Yeah, that was terrible. Go ahead.
The lie that we need in order to live dooms us to a life that is not our own.
I like it. There probably won't be another podcast for a while, so I'm not sure when you guys could expect to hear from us again. But Until next time.